Children's Land. Before I talk about why this space was built and how we're basically offering it, I want to introduce another one of the values which is practiced in the community. That is natural learning, sometimes more commonly referred to as unschooling. Are any people familiar with either natural learning, unschooling, this value system? A couple people, not so many, and that's usually common. It's not something that's you see practiced very often these days, and we don't have a lot of living examples of them. I'm also not a living example. The basic principle of natural learning is built on trust. The idea that we should trust each person, children, teenagers, and so on, to be their own steward and their own caretaker. The idea is that the moment in which we learn most effectively about the world is the moment when we're curious about something. The belief that learning is driven by curiosity. If that sounds weird, I see some people nodding, so it's an idea you connect to. But there are some clear examples of this. For example, you know with an infant that it's going to babble, play with sounds. You know that it's going to start to use words. Slowly, slowly. It wants to reach out to these magical beings which give them warmth and milk and joy and comfort. Wants to be able to communicate its needs. Wants to be able to understand them, be part of their world. We understand that this process unfolds. You don't have to put headphones on them and make them repeat sounds and listen to audio tapes and put them in school for this. They're going to do this on their own. The basic experience of natural learning is it said, what if it didn't stop at 3, 4, 5? What if it continued? Now, most of us, probably in our life, were put on a kind of conveyor belt of education, which said, okay, you're 5 years old, addition, subtraction. You're 6 years old, multiplication, division, basic history. You're 7 years old, I don't know, maybe you have your letters now, your basic alphabet, and you're kind of put along. You're more or less treated that when you're at a certain age, okay, this is the average of when you're ready to know this average, and on you go. I think math is a good example where many people struggled in a math class at some point, had the impression that they were not good at math, and math became a kind of torture of their educational experience. Is there anyone who can relate to that?
Yes.
Yes? A few people? You get the idea? It's happening with children all the time. Oh, great, I'm good at English. Oh, I'm bad at math. I hate math. I don't want to be in math. And of course, what's often happening, maybe you had one teacher, they didn't teach it in the way that you understood the language. You get behind in one concept, you get discouraged. So every time you come there, you're expecting to fail. And you start to identify, am I good at this, bad at this? So many people have this relationship with their education. It's something which, it might sound strong, but there's something almost a little violent about it. Being forced each and every day, sit, come home, do homework. The busiest year of my life was my junior year in high school. I had no life whatsoever. It seems like a crazy thing to be 16 and 17 years old and all of my brain is being spent like mad in my education. Now, there's a story that I tell. It's interesting that my parents are here because I'll be curious if you remember this later. When I was 8 years old, I was put into an advanced program, 3rd grade, advanced program at my school. And even at that age, 3rd grade, 8 years old, it was extremely important to me that I belong in this class. It was very fundamental to my identity. I identified as being a good child. I needed to be smart. I was already thinking about what university. I need to get into a great university so I can get a good job and have a great life and do all the things. The very first day of class, the teacher gives us a kind of pop quiz. It wasn't actually a quiz. What it was she just wanted to see, okay, what do you already know? And I still remember many of the questions. It was something like, what's the state capital of California? What's the state mammal of California? What's the state bird of California? It was all the same, basically. What's the state flower of California? So I get into this class, first day, given this quiz, I don't know one answer. I don't know that the capital is Sacramento. I don't know anything. So I'm sitting here, oh my God, the teacher is going to find out that I don't belong in this class. I'm going to be kicked out. and my life was crumbling before my eyes. So what did I do? I cheated. I cheated on an ungraded introductory test. The girl sitting next to me, I think I liked her. She was a year older than me. She had done the test the year before, so she knew a lot of the questions. So I copied. Did I come home and confess? Do you know this story?
No.
I never cheated again in my life, and I kept this guilt with me for years. But when I look back on the story, the thing that's most remarkable to me is why, as an 8-year-old, am I sitting here thinking about my education in this way? That I have to belong, that my whole life is going to crumble before me if I don't stay in the right class. And if you look at what's going on in the world, as people are feeling more pressure to get jobs, as there's more a feeling of scarcity around professions, more and more children are committing suicide because they're not succeeding in school, are having their whole life and being consumed by, in younger and younger age, already worrying about their future. The number one thing that I've seen in unschooling children, and the family here raised 2 daughters through this principle and value system of natural learning, is because they're given trust at such a young age, they know themselves. They know what they like, they know what they don't like. And they're not waiting for someone to say, okay, from 7 to 8, you're doing this. From 8 to 9, you're doing that. You have 10 minutes to eat your snack. From 10 to 11, you play for 20 minutes here. They have to know what they want. And they've been able to practice from their moment of consciousness, their moment of awareness. Just to give an example, the oldest daughter of the family living here, Osha, when I first came here, she was 12 years old. She could comfortably lead a tour group of 60 people. She was one of the chefs preparing food for 80, 100 people, however many guests. She could lead just about any seva. She had a deep sense of ownership and care for each person who was coming into her home. And she couldn't read. You have to ask this question. Has she lost something? She's 12 years old and she can't read. By most measurements of education, what's the most common one? Literacy. What is the literacy rate? She would be seen as a failure. 12 years old and she can't read? Oh my God. What will happen? So what happened? Eventually, shortly thereafter, she decided she wanted to read. Without talking to her parents, she came to one of the volunteers here who she liked, who happened to be a kindergarten teacher, and she said, will you teach me to read? She said, yeah, I'd be happy to. They spent 2 weeks together, about 2.5 hours a day. By the end of these 2 weeks, she could read. By the end of a year, she was reading at the same level of children who are her age. So do we really all need to learn at the same time? Are we really all the same? And when is the moment when we most effectively learn something? When we want to.
Exactly.
You know, when I started thinking, this value is the one that I think I'm learning the most about still all the time. When we think about small children, how often do we think of them as being so annoying because they have questions about everything? Why does the sun move this way? That tree's more green than that tree. Why is that dog brown? That one's white. That one's black and white. They are filled with questions about the world around. And it's sometimes annoying to us as adults that we're constantly replying to their questions, and yet we imagine that we have to force them to do their homework. There's a disconnect going on here. The basic idea of natural learning is committing to having the patience to answer the question. And it's to answer the question, not in the way you want to. How they want to know why the moon goes this way or that way. Okay, maybe you give them the simplest answer. If they want to know more, they ask more. They want to know more, they ask more. If they ask something you don't know the answer to, you find someone who understands more than you and you connect them. You let them learn from adults of their choosing who have knowledge, understanding. Now, we won't be able to go deeper into this because obviously there's a lot of implications in this idea of learning. It's a lot to absorb, and we probably don't have one person here who represents this type of education. So just to quickly summarize what happens in this space of Children's Land, this is basically an offering to the local community. This is a space where local children from underprivileged backgrounds can come. Usually it's on the weekend, sometimes during weekdays. They can come here, and for at least during the 2 hours that they're here, they choose. No one is telling them, stand in a line, be here, go there. If they just want to spend the day swimming in the mud pool, Playing, it's no problem. We don't see this as a loss of time. When children are playing, they're learning communication. They're learning how to be creative, how to be imaginative, how to get along with each other, how to say what they need, what they want. These are all skills that we need. Children are learning all the time. So we don't pretend that when children come here for 2 hours a week, they're suddenly natural learning children, but at least they understand that there's a space where it's different, where they can choose. Okay, we have one more stop before the film. Let's go.